Paley 1's 97th Senior Patrol Leader over 102 years. Like my predecessors, I'm an experienced leader and I lead my troop through its trips and activities. I assumed leadership last June at my troop's 101st birthday, followed by a week down at Camp Horseshoe and a week trip to Maine. In both weeks, I was in charge of my troop. I oversaw activities, responded to emergencies, and advised rising leaders. Since the start of the school year, I have led all the meetings and I have participated in all 6 weekend trips, not just to have fun, but to manage my troop. However, I was never this confident or seen as a leader. I remember my second year at Camp Horseshoe, under my patrol leader Josiah, where I had a bad habit of sleeping in as long as I could. Despite the ordering and reasoning by Josiah to get out of my bunk, I got only right before it was time to go to the dreaded polar bear swim. Finally, on Wednesday, Josiah had enough of my disobedience and laziness, and after warning me several times to get out of my bunk, he finally lifted my sleeping bag and dragged me onto the floor. Luckily, I was on the bottom bunk. Stunned, I just tried to curl up and sleep on the floor anyways, but Josiah rolled me around and seemed like he was about to roll me off the pavilion. Believing he was actually going to roll me off, I jumped out of my sleeping bag and put on my swimsuit right away. The next day, after the wake-up Indian yell we have at camp, I immediately got out of my bunk, just as Josiah got out of his, and in all my future horseshoe trips, that's when I got up. After various meetings and trips, such as horseshoe, I would share stories with my friends. Sometimes I would talk about having to do push-ups or being sent to the back of the line for food. Astonished, some of my friends asked if I was being hazed. At first, when I was young, it did feel like I was being bullied somewhat. However, after participating in this Boy Scout program for over 7 years, I've realized that my leaders were not demeaning me for their own entertainment. Rather, they were humbling and building me up. They did push-ups with me so that I may learn to not ditch the workday ever again and go on the roof. I was sent to the back of the line for food with the other young scouts because I needed to respect my superiors and the adults. Hazing is when a bully uses his power to humiliate another for his own entertainment. I remember in my sociology class where we read an article about a fraternity forcing a member to drink so much water that the member died. That was hazing. On the other hand, Josiah did not drag me out of the bunk so he could laugh at my weakness. His overarching goal was to educate me to be in command of myself to get up at the designated time. And he succeeded. He succeeded in his leadership and discipline and pushed me to become a responsible scout. A responsible scout which has stuck with me since that day. I wholeheartedly believe that the discipline and instruction by my previous leaders have refined me to become the Eagle Scout I am and the man I will be. Of course, even in my high position now, I have made mistakes. I have not set a good enough example, or I have not instructed my scouts thoroughly. Nevertheless, as a leader that loves my troop, I am trying to find a balance of discipline and leadership to better my own scouts, especially the 5 patrol leaders within the troop. Those 5, 4 of which are here now, know how much I pushed them. From calling their scouts each month, to being responsible for the activities we have in camping trips to the first aid meet, all of them have been driven and encouraged to bond with their patrol members and each other. They have learned together that leadership is more than yelling at kids to get them what you want them to do, but that it requires finesse and flexibility to influence others and, most importantly, be respected. And I admit that I do acquire some satisfaction out of my impact on the patrol leaders as well as my older leadership. Except I do not get enjoyment from seeing them stressed and uncomfortable. No, I get enjoyment from seeing them uncomfortable and stressed and then overcoming their problems and situations to develop their skills and initiatives on leadership. My pleasure resides in my pride of seeing them grow as leaders, just as my leaders before have nurtured me into the leader I am today. Since joining the Boy Scouts of America, I have lived under the Scout Oath and Law, which I believe is essential during this day and age, not just for young men to have fun on trips, but also for young men to grow into the respectable and commanding leaders of tomorrow. having the discipline and temperance to deliver commands to those placed under my care, to be respectful of my superiors, and to live my life as a Boy Scout. That has only improved my attitudes, my reputation, and my life. Thank you all very much for listening.